Dear ambassadors, dear dignitaries, dear disability inclusion champions. My name is Martin Essl, and as the founder of the Zero Project, an international research-driven foundation committed to a world with zero barriers, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the World Expo Disability Coalition on today's International Day of People with Disabilities. We come together because we have a lot of work ahead of us. Just recently, Karin Elhara, Israel's energy minister, was unable to participate in the first full day of the United Nations Climate Summit in Glasgow because the conference was not accessible by wheelchair. Let that sink in. The world's climate future was being debated and decided, and the minister of a country was unable to participate because of a structural barrier. The lack of accessibility for Minister Elhara made global headlines, but more than 1 billion of people face barriers every day that remain unreported, like physical barriers prevent persons with disabilities, for example, to enjoy a date night in the restaurant of their choice, or mental barriers prevent companies in realizing the inherent potential of persons with disabilities, and legislative barriers continue to hold back persons with disabilities. Very few will write headlines about these human stories and the barrier they face. But these are no longer anecdotes, these are realities that 15% of the world's population face. Yet another reason we decided to join forces with the International Paralympic Committee to become a founding member of We the 15, the world's largest human rights campaign. When I launched the Zero Project back in 2007 with my family, we launched it with the clear goal in mind to retire the Zero Project, namely when the zero in the name became a reality. Zero barriers for all. Through the Zero Project, I'm committed to democratizing access to disability inclusion innovation, to give everyone the chance to understand where to start if they want to remove barriers for all. Subsequently, I'm delighted to see the World Expo Disability Coalition come together, a compact, equally committed to removing barriers. I encourage you all to visit our website zeroproject.org in order to discover more than 700 awardees from over 150 countries we have highlighted in the past decade. Through an international peer review process, we have been able to underline innovative practices and innovative policies that shows impact, innovation, and the potential to scale and to be replicated. Use this World Expo to discover the awardees from your own country on zeroproject.org. Ultimately, we are all in this together in order to accomplish dignity for all. The Zero Project anthem encapsulated that in the universal language of music. Especially for this occasion, I'm so delighted to inform you that we have Xia or Ong Zhu, who has designed the Zero Project anthem for global deaf community on the occasion of the World Expo in Dubai. Let me close with a call for all of us. Recommit ourselves to a world with zero barriers, where inclusion no longer becomes a headline because the only real disability is being unable to see human potential.
Okay, so our next event that we have to share with you is the launch of a song from the Zero Project, the anthem, as Martin referred to, that was designed and crafted by Xiaorong Zhou, our visiting scholar from St. Cloud State University. And I want to say briefly that I met Xiaorong in the summer of 2000. I was a faculty member on my first trip, and I did a presentation at Beijing Union University to all these young college students who were deaf, who were learning about education in the United States for students who were deaf. And little did I know that one of the students sitting in that classroom 20 years later would be a visiting scholar at St. Cloud State University. So yes, I believe in miracles. And so today we're really excited to share the Zero Project song and have it be introduced by Xiaorong, who so passionately was committed to making this a reality.
Well, hello, everyone. Today we celebrate United Nations International Day of Disability, such an important, momentous event. I am here in America, in Minnesota. I have to tell you, it is really cold, but it is so beautiful. I love being out here in the outdoors hiking. My name is Xiaorong, and I'm from China. In November of 2019, I arrived in America and became a visiting research scholar. Here in America, I've been studying and researching Chinese Sign Language curriculum development with a Zero Project support, supporting disability rights and working hand in hand with Dr. Johnson and Dr. Knopf. I've so enjoyed working with the two of them over the last 2 years. They have supported, encouraged me, and I have learned an abundant amount of information. I came here to America thinking I had a good handle on my deaf identity. And lo and behold, with the culture that I've learned, the ASL curriculum that I've been involved in, the exposure I've had to the deaf community here in America, it's fascinating and I'm learning still. And I really feel like I have a true understanding now of my deaf identity. Dr. Johnson and Dr. Knopf and I have been working on promoting this very auspicious occasion. And we thought that we could get deaf people, deaf children from around the world involved in the national anthem that was mentioned before. We thought if we could get these people that have sign language from around the world to be involved with the Zero Project and the Zero Project anthem, that would be quite a feat. So we reached out to people across the globe, people that use sign language from different languages. They joined us, young and old, from deaf schools, from deaf organizations and agencies. We worked through time differences, language and cultural differences. We talked about the meaning of the project, the meaning of the lyrics, and we were successful through it all. The anthem itself and the project, we really want to focus our thanks on Martin Essl for giving me this opportunity, giving me the inspiration to work with the Zero Project, to make sure that we express our love for language and we really shoot for zero barriers, zero walls, zero bonds, and zero limits. And to make sure that access is universal and diverse. Again, through this project, I've learned so very much and I've enjoyed every step of the way. We thought maybe we'd have participation from about 10 different countries in our Zero Project anthem, But when all was said and done, we had 18 countries represented and ages from 3 to over 50 years old. That is so inspiring. We had people with disabilities, we had people who were deaf, we had all walks of life join us in this Zero Project anthem. I want to thank everybody who was involved. We had people from India, from Samoa, from deaf organizations, from the Jamaican School for the Deaf, from Israeli School for the Deaf. So many countries blessed us with their sign languages, and I want to thank them all. So now, please enjoy our creation. I want all of us to stand tall and grow together and be proud and truly celebrate the beauty of life. Thank you.
Education, employment, accessibility, independent living, and political participation, innovative practices, and innovative policies, a network of civil society.
If you see me, take me just the way I am. We could change the world because we understand. If we both are part of the same society, I could be me. Zero barriers, zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. By reaching our aim, zero project, the dignity of man.
If you give me chances and take me by the hand, if you let me grow and if you let me be, if we all give up our partiality, then I could be free.
Zero barriers, zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. Reaching our aim, zero project, the dignity of man. Innovative practices and innovative policies. A network of civil society. Zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. By reaching our aim, zero project, zero barriers.
So we're really, really proud of the work of Xiaorong. And she is an amazing, gifted, talented, brilliant young champion for disability rights in China and for the deaf population in China. It's truly an honor to be able to work with her. And so we're excited too that the Zero Project is launching that video today, along with many of the countries that were represented in that video. And so we encourage you to share with as many of your colleagues and friends. And we're excited to create another edition now with our Arabic friends who are here, to our Emirati friends who can add in Arabic sign language. Sorry, we didn't meet you until yesterday. So we're really excited to add that in. All right, thank you everyone. And I just have to end because I know Xiaorong is watching. Xiaorong, I love you. Thank you. All right, next I would like to introduce a new partner in our work for our Center for International Disability Advocacy and Diplomacy. We met Sara Minkara at the Zero Project Conference in Vienna. And when I met her, I knew she was sharing her greatness with the world. Sara is a young woman of determination. She is American Lebanese, so understands this region of the world well, and recently was appointed by President Biden of the United States to serve in the capacity of Special Advisor on International Disability Rights for the Office of the President of the United States. For 4 years, no one filled that position, and there was a gap in the United States' involvement in international disability rights. And so when we in the disability community heard Sara's appointment, we were extremely over the moon and back excited. And so Sara shared a presentation, and we would like to share her comments with you in this message.
Warm greetings to colleagues and guests at the USA Pavilion at the Dubai Expo in UAE. As the Special Advisor on International Disability Rights, I'm excited and honored that we're here together to celebrate a very important day. Today is International Day of Persons with Disabilities. It's important for us to recognize the amazing work that the World Events Disability Coalition is doing in the UAE and across the globe with regards to disability inclusion. The need for this work was brought to attention when the minister from Israel was not able to access COP26 due to lack of accessibility. Situations like this sheds light on the lived experiences of many persons with disabilities across the globe. I am pleased to see positive improvements for the inclusion of persons with disabilities in Dubai. The amazing work of the World Events Disability Coalition is an example of how important it is for us to engage in inclusive diplomacy. It's vital as we advance the rights of persons with disabilities, we develop partnerships across all sectors, the private, the public, and the nonprofit sector. The Biden-Harris administration has shown their commitment towards disability inclusion by my appointment and by placing individuals with disabilities in key leadership roles across the government. This is an example of how America is building back better by ensuring persons with disabilities are included across all levels. It is an honor to welcome everyone at this dinner, including our special guests from the Arab League of Nations. As a Lebanese American with disability, I look forward to working and collaborating with countries across the Middle East. I hope that from our conversations, discussions, and dialogue that we are having today in the USA Pavilion on International Day of Persons with Disability, we're able to take forward long-lasting, sustainable initiatives on disability inclusion.
What amazing speakers we have all heard. To kind of recap and summarize for us today, Vladimir came and began us off and began speaking about people died because we have more work to do. During COVID-19, we saw so many gaps with people of determination, people with disabilities. And so he put the onus not on other individuals, he put the onus on us. What do we have to do to increase? He said we didn't do a good job and we're not going to be overlooked. So that is on us. We talk about it from the perspective of kind of my company, Inspired Communications International. It's always about not placing and shifting blame elsewhere. What can we do? What is my responsibility to this end? The second thing is from Martin Essl. We said, we have to be more committed. We have to recommit. And I love the term of zero barriers, taking it all away. I had a beautiful individual in my life, a woman who was my supervisor, and she said, always, John, work yourself out of a job. Always want to work yourself out of a job. Let the job be so crystal clear that you don't even need to do the work any longer. And that's the commitment all of us have to make. And then of course, Shai Wong says to us, zero barriers, and she gives us this amazing song. And I don't know about you, but the emotional connection I felt to seeing the world connected. And that's always about it with me. It's always about connecting our thoughts, our ideas, the imagination, the dreams that we have to one solid vision. Work your way out of a job is what I always say. And then Sara Minkara, representation does matter. Why? Because we can never have a minister not get access because of a disability. It doesn't make any type of sense. And this happened right before the American with Disabilities Act was passed, where another awardee was going to a convention and was the awardee and couldn't get across the street because of a power wheelchair with no curb cutouts. So we see that even 35 years ago, in a conversation we're still having today, why is that? Why are we still having these conversations? Why is it that we cannot advance forward? And it's not about other things. It's not about other laws. It's what is my personal responsibility. This is the theme that we have been hearing for today. So we have another beautiful individual who's going to come and grace us with his comments and take us further down the road from our mindset to our mind sight. He is a disabled assistant professor of disability and education in the College of Education at Wayne State University. Now, Wayne State University has a dear place, a special place in my heart, because that is where my mother graduated from. So I am so excited to introduce him, and I just got chills thinking about that as I saw her just after Thanksgiving. He has a bachelor's and a master's degree in special education and a doctorate in teacher education, focusing on inclusive education. His background and experiences in Kenya and the US fuel his research interest in higher education institutions and how values, philosophies, missions, visions, and practices impact the lives of people with disabilities. Please welcome right now from Kenya by way of Detroit, Mo City. This is Dr. Theo Ressa.
Thank you very much. sometimes I feel like I should always be the last person to speak and then wheel myself under the table so that I can hide. And after that, behave like a warthog and allow me to use some of the idioms because I come from Kenya. However, because I'm also based in the United States, I will be using some transnational language in my talk today. I do want to appreciate very much your introduction. That was a lot to say about me. Well, I have multiple identities, as you can see. One, I'm Black, I'm African, I'm an immigrant in the United States, I'm a Kenyan national, I am a wheelchair user, I am a person who became disabled as a result of polio when I was young, as a result of either my parents' ignorance or lack of awareness of the availability of the vaccination against polio. But at the same time, as you can see, in comparison to most of the disability community, especially in Kenya, and of course around the world, if we consider that 15% of the population of people with disabilities in the world, almost 90% of them don't have access to education. To a certain degree, I can also claim I'm privileged. So I have multiple identities. In fact, those identities are not limited. But I want to take this opportunity, as I was introduced, that I am a professor of inclusive education, to appreciate the power of education in empowering people with disabilities. And I want to look at it from a transnational perspective for a number of reasons. One is because culture keeps on diffusing. There is a lot of diffusion of culture when it comes to disabilities, specifically speaking, in the context that looking at the disability laws that we have enacted, and I want to give two comparative countries, United States and Kenya. The United States all of a sudden enacted the American with Disabilities Act in 1990. And for some reasons, there was an impetus to many countries around the world, including Kenya, in that by 2003, Kenya enacted the Kenya Persons with Disabilities Act. Now, interestingly, or rather disinterestingly, we can also say so, is that the laws were taken from the United States and transposed into the Kenyan community with the deletion of American and substitution of American with the Kenyan. So what happens is that we have a good law, but the country somehow is struggling to implement. It's struggling to implement as a result of course, we can say economic, but not necessarily economic. Cultural, but not necessarily cultural. But I can say specifically that as a result of lack of political will, that is causing this disorientation within the laws within Kenya, in that we have the American law that has been substituted with the Kenyan law. Very many people with disabilities, of course, when it comes to inclusion in comparison to other countries in Africa, we are ahead of many countries, maybe except of South Africa. But at the same time, when we compare ourselves with the United States, because that's the law where we took the law, then we are saying, well, when it comes to implementation of the law, then it should be implemented to the letter, and we need to have political will. So this brings me back to the whole notion of my education and my role as a teacher educator in inclusive education, but also as a social justice proponent. Because I teach inclusive education, but at the same time, I'm a social justice proponent. more so when it comes to the realm of disability. So as an educator at Wayne State University, what I do is I train teachers, but I train teachers from the social perspective, in that I'm looking at disability as socially constructed, not necessarily with disagreement of the existent or the material existent of disability, but with the idea that appropriation of disability and weaponization of disability generally is the causal factor of discrimination of people with disabilities. And I'm looking at it that way to train teachers and to enable them understand that for us to change systemic barriers within education system, we have to be champions of inclusion. And that's why I embrace inclusive education. The tenets of inclusive education is based on the realization that we are naturally different, but our difference is critical for our unity, and our unity is critical for our strength. And I'm using that knowledge to train teachers in Detroit, where the community is so much diverse, but at the same time, using the very knowledge to do a lot of research in Kenya. So that's where now my transnational aspect comes in. In research in Kenya, what I'm doing right now is that I'm collecting data specifically on people with disabilities in the semi-arid areas of Kenya, because in the semi-arid areas, you can see I'm very much surprised. I was invited in Dubai as a result of my friend, Professor Johnson, and the community. So I've been very much surprised how the desert here has all of a sudden been transformed into a great city, in that my wheelchair is rolling so easily around. And a few months ago, I was in the semi-desert in Kenya, and I was looking at the environment there now, comparing it with here. I'm very surprised that there is a lot of challenges when it comes to Kenya. Now, the section where I was is around Lake Turkana. I'm sure you've heard of where they found the oldest man in the whole world, where Dr. Leakey, Richard Leakey, did research and found some of the original human beings, Homo sapiens and Homo whatever, I can't remember some of the history. But the whole notion here is that the place is a desert, but we have a lake, freshwater lake in that desert. So the question is, why is it people that with disabilities in that region are one of the least educated and they're highly marginalized? In fact, there is infanticide, in that the killing of young people with disabilities, because I mean, it's so tough because it's a nomadic life. And when you are born with a disability, generally it becomes a death trap to a family, because they have to keep on moving from one place to another, looking for water, to looking for pasture. So if you have if you have a physical disability, a child with a physical disability, many times parents will kill the child. So I'm taking this opportunity as an educator in the United States to do research in Kenya in the semi-arid areas to find out how can we use the knowledge that I have acquired in the US and transplant it in the community in the desert areas and help transform the communities, because the desert, as much as it's a desert, it has a lot of resources. In fact, there is oil. There is an Australian company that was digging oil there. It has a lot of fresh water. Actually, you don't need even desalination. The water is just there. What is needed is there is technological expertise that is needed. So that's where I'm coming in and using my knowledge and saying, well, do we really need to kill children with disabilities just because we are still practicing nomadic life? And I'm using that to challenge the communities that, well, In the history of disability, if you think you can eliminate disability by extermination, then the history will prove you wrong, because they have tried it before. And that's where now I'm always stressing the importance of inclusion, that rather than look at the ultimate extermination as the solution of what you foresee as a problem, why don't we change our perspective and look at it that these are diverse people who have different strengths, and how can their need prompt us to think outside the box so that we can come with solutions. And many times, any solution that helps people with disabilities, if it helps people with disabilities 20%, it always helps people without disabilities almost 99%. Beneficiaries of accessible infrastructure, actually, most of them are not people with disabilities. Beneficiaries of technological advancement, majority of them are not people with disabilities. Beneficiaries of any cultural improvement, majority of them are not people with disabilities. So the question is, what I'm trying to institute into the mind of the people is for them to see diversity in disability as a challenge for them to think outside the box so that they can institute ways of improving community living rather than looking at elimination of people with disabilities as a solution to the problem. So that's where I'm using my transnational perspective in trying to address issues in the semi-desert of Kenya. As an educator, I'm also sharing the same perspective that educators must be social justice educators, not just teachers per se. So that's what I do at the Ohio State, at the Wayne State University, but that's also what I do when I'm moving across the globe when going to Kenya. Unless you have more questions, there is a lot to talk, but unless we have more questions, I'm open for other perspectives on what I'm doing. Thank you very much.